Hey there, Peter Vekselman with Marina Rad. Marina, how are you?
Good, Peter. How are you?
Good. So we are here filming today. I will tell you, this is the second one we're doing. Marina was a little bit worried about the first one, and she absolutely rocked it out. But really, I'm glad you're here. You're visiting us. Here's the cool thing about, we say things like, well, it's a family. Partner driven, but it really is. I mean, Marina's literally staying at our lake house, 10 minutes down the road.
Yes.
You enjoying it?
I'm loving it. It's a beautiful view. The house is beautiful. Thank you for having me. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, we're glad you guys are there. Tomorrow, actually, I guess Friday, we're going to come back, jump on the boat, go have some fun. It really is. Partner driven is a family environment. But this is what I wanted to talk to you about, Marina, as it relates to that. I want to talk about leadership. Because as I get to know you more and more, it seems like at least the things you've done here in the time span I've known you, there's been leadership qualities. And I know that's one of the biggest things people, there's certain things that need to take place for people to become successful. Like there's certain things you could leave out of the equation, but I really think when people become successful, there's certain characteristics that come with them. Leadership is one of them. Yep. I see very few people who become successful in kind of in a whole, in their own right. Sure, there's those kinds of people, but that's few and far in between. So leadership is one of those big things that people many times are in awe of. They don't think they can become leaders. They don't think they have the leadership skill set and all this. So let's talk about a couple things. Number one, how you rose in an unrelated industry from just getting started, right? You were in a retail environment, right? So talk about, and so you got hired at the very bottom, right? They didn't bring you in as a president, as a manager, right? They brought you in at the very bottom. Talk a little bit about what it took to go from very bottom to ultimately get into the management position. Talk a little bit about the characteristics, what you did, kind of the attitude you had, some of the maybe setbacks you had, and all that.
It was a lot of hard work. It wasn't easy. It's not something that you can overcome overnight. Remember, from our last video, we were talking about me coming into this country without any English. Mm-hmm. No English, no work experience, no degrees or anything. So think with all of those setbacks, that's what you call them, right? I was already like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? But I keep going to the store manager every day to apply. I apply for the job. That's the only thing that I was able to say at the time. But that got me a foot in the door. Once I become the customer service manager at Food Line and start working. For me, the biggest thing is as a leader, I have to be coachable. So I have to be able to be receiving the feedback. I have to be able to implement those feedback and learn from them. Make mistakes, of course, just like everybody else. But my mentality was like, I have to get this done. So whatever it takes, I'm going to make it happen. My goal was to become a store manager. And that was my ultimate goals. Like, I don't know what it is about me. I love to work with people, but just I wanted to become a store manager. I started off as a Food Line. I started as a cashier, as a part-time cashier. Worked my way up over there, customer service supervisor at the time. Went to Kohl's. The same thing. Started off as a cashier. Got promoted to a supervisor because, again, for me, it was all about let's get this done. Let me learn, no matter what it takes. All the negatives, all of the feedbacks, all of the guidance. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. You have to be willing to be guided by anybody, whoever's in a leadership position, right? So being a leader, it's something, yes, you kind of like born with, but it's something you can actually be taught. Like for me, I might be in a leader back home, but I was still a kid back home. Right. Here, I didn't know the law. I didn't know the system. I didn't know anything about America when I first got here. So for me to grow into who I become, it took determination, it took positive attitude, it definitely took some feedback, definitely took a couple of books to read on delegation too. But that all brought me to who I am today and how I grow with my previous employers to where I'm at now with you.
You know, one of the things that I see people in people that want to become leaders, one of the places where I think they falter is they think it's a journey just by themselves. It's like a one man or a one woman journey, right? They think, well, that person became successful because they started at the bottom, which many times is true, and that they themselves did absolutely everything. There was no one there to help. Do you agree with that philosophy, or do you believe that in order for you to become a leader, for you to progress, for you to go forward, other people,
Yes.
there's other people that want to help, that
Yes.
can help, and you have to utilize that?
Yes, and you have to be open to that too. So when people wanted to help you in every single industry, I would have been nobody and I would have been cashier if my store manager wouldn't see potential in me. My store manager took me up on his wings, right, and showed me all the ropes. Then I would also be nowhere if I wouldn't have another assistant manager helping me out and another store manager helping me out. So it's the same thing as it is with a partner driven, that we have family and we take care of each other and we help each other and we guide each other. The same thing was in my career. And that's for every single leader who's out there who wants to become a leader. You have to be open to being guided, to be coachable, and to make sure that you take the feedback back too. Just because it's a negative feedback, it does not ruin your life. It's actually bring you to the next step.
Yep.
And that's how you become a leader. You have to have your mentors. You have to have your coaches in your life to become to the next level where you want to be. And that's what helps me. I actually put myself back. I listen. I observe. And that's what helped me become to who I am today.
Here's another thing that I know all leaders that I know have experienced, and this is what I think keeps a lot of people from becoming successful, and that is their inability to handle rejection, inability to handle setbacks. Really, let's face it, a lot of us fail on our way to success. Talk a little bit about that. Does that come with the territory, or I've literally have a lot of people tell me that, well, it's just kind of like you're either going to be on your easy street, or if it's not an easy street, it ain't worth doing. Is that reality?
It is not. There's going to be so many setbacks. There's going to be so many negativity. There has been in my life. I'm a strong kind of person, I want to say, but there's been times that when I sometimes have to bite my tongue, especially from one specific district manager of mine. He was at Burlington, and he can read my face, and he's like, you got something to say, go ahead and say it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes, you're going to have those times. You're going to have to bite your tongue. And there's been many times that I will come home so frustrated because I'm like, how do you not understand this? Or he gives me a feedback and I'm not understanding it. All that comes with the position. There is no one way, easy way. Not to me, at least anyway. And yes, for me, coming from a different country, maybe it has play a part in it too, right? Because the way we think, we are so straightforward. We're so let's go. So driven, like work driven. Maybe to some other leaders, it's not like that as for us. But I'm going to tell you right now, there is no easy way. That you're always going to have a feedback, you're always going to have negativities. And some days I did come home and cry after being so frustrated to hearing those negative feedback. When you think that you're giving it all, but it's not.
The other thing I find that is sometimes on a flip side, I see people think that as they progress on the road to success, they don't want to share. They don't want to help. They don't want to reach their hand out because they feel like, and you hear it all the time, there's very few people at the top, the room at the top, there's only one or two that make it to the top. I've never had that philosophy. And, part of the reason why we have the partner-driven program to help as many people as possible. But talk a little bit about that view. Is it minimal, or is the bottom line is there's plenty for everyone, and part of being a leader is actually helping other people and giving back and all that?
Yep. So like for me, when I was in my retail life, I wanted to become assistant store manager and a store manager. That was when I was a supervisor. One of the things that my store manager told me at the time, and I'll never forget this, and I implement that everywhere, found your replacement. You cannot be anywhere without your replacement. So for me, that was huge. That means that I have to step out of my comfort zone to share my knowledge, to train someone else to take my place, which I've done so many before I even become to the next level. But that's exactly what it is. In real estate, I feel the same way. And from me, like I always help everybody. All of the partners has access to me. They can call me, text me, whatever, with all the questions. I will always help. But you have to share your knowledge. There is, like I just explained in our previous video, there's enough for everybody. There are always going to be people who need to buy a house. There are always going to be people who need to sell a house. They always going to be investor who did not want to share and get burned out. They always going to be investor who did not want to invest in a partnership, and they again got burned out, got spent all the money. So there were always going to be enough houses, enough inventory.
Yep.
Share it. Share it with the world. Let them know what you do. Help them out.
You know, it's interesting you're talking about this because it just clicked for me. You know, Marina is obviously part of our leadership team now, and, you know, we brought her in to help so many other partners. But you're absolutely right. You were always like that.
Yes.
I mean, even before you were brought into the inner circle, kind of the leadership team, I just remember you being on calls and Zoom meetings. You know, it was always like, hey, if you need help, call me. If you need to know this, you know, connect with me. And I think in the end, really what happens, Marina, it's not all of a sudden people develop certain skills and they become leaders. I think people exude those skills. You know, even at the bottom, you know, even when they're getting started, even when they're struggling, even when they're not considered leaders, you know, I think it's important to act a part.
Yep.
You know, I think it's so important. You know, I got a kind of almost a weird question for you.
Okay.
But here it is. You start with us at the partner program. You know, we've done some deals together. Why do you think you rose to this leadership part? I mean, what do you think? And I know it's kind of the things I should be telling you, and
Right.
I do want to share on that. But I want you to, you know, because you experienced it, you know. So there might be some people listening, like, and say, well, what do I got to do? How do I progress within an organization? How do I become more of a leader? How do I get into the inner circles? What did you think you did with us in the partner program that, you know, now you are where you are?
Well, I think for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you actually seen in me, it was during the Christmas time one year when we did 1 month of doing something for your business. We had a challenge.
30 go hard 30.
Yep. 30 go hard 30.
30, that's right.
I was a store manager in the retail at that time, an hour away and from my house. So I had to drive an hour back and forth. And that was Christmas. So I was working 6 days a week. But I was so determined. I actually won the challenge, by the way. I was so determined to make this business happen that I was doing something every single day for my business, towards my goal. So I think what you've seen in me, and I don't know, I might be wrong, but you saw in me being determined. And also, like you say, I always help others. So like there is no question about me. Like if you need something, you reach out and I will always get back to you. So the being determined, being always willing to help others, and being a leader, I always take the charge. No matter what situation is. If I know it, I will jump on and I'll help it out.
You know, I couldn't have said it better myself. Look, the bottom line is this. You don't need to be a leader to be successful. You don't need to be part of an inner circle to be successful. There's plenty of people that become extremely, exorbitantly successful, you know, within their own right, within their own organizations, and never achieve those leadership roles. But I will tell you, the one thing that actually being a leader does, it does give you that one thing of being able to give back, to be able to contribute, to be able to set the course, to be able to set the pace. So I'll tell you, from myself personally, Marina, I'm glad you're part of our leadership team. I'm glad you're here to stay. And most importantly, I'm glad that when new partners get started with us at Partner Driven, it's no longer just what we can offer, it's what people like Marina can offer. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No, absolutely. Thank you.